I'm here with Rebekah Meier, and Rebekah has brought these unbelievably beautiful mixed media collages. I love this shabby chic style.
Oh, thank you, Julie. It's so great to be here.
And you told me it's all about the layering.
Yes, collage is all about layering, doing different techniques to different layers and then layering them.
Cool, so how are we gonna start?
We're gonna cut a wreath.
And you're cutting it out of any kind of paper, does it matter?
It is a medium weight watercolor paper.
So you want something a little bit heavy, right? Then,
Yeah,
because watercolor paper tends to be heavy.
Right, I'm gonna gild it, so I want it to be a little bit more on the sturdy side.
So I see you're just picking a size that works. I can see it right there on the screen.
Yes, so it's all ready to go.
And then while that's cutting, I know that you have one that's already cut for you.
So when it's finished cutting, this is what it will look like. And the next step is I'm going to gild this with some transfer foil.
Fantastic, let's do it.
Awesome. So I'm going to load a cosmetic sponge. It's one of the best applicators there is. And I'm just going to all around.
Dab it on. So you're not wiping it on, you're dabbing it on, you're just sort of covering it all over.
Yes, so dabbing it, and this I want to dry to tacky.
And I know that we have one here that's already dried to tacky, so I'm gonna go ahead and pass that over to you.
And I'm going to remove a piece of foil.
Okay, now I always wonder which side of the foil to put down when I'm foiling.
That is something you need to do, and what you need to do is the shiny side always up.
Okay, so to me, both sides look kind of shiny. So another way that somebody wants to explain it to me is the color that you want to show has to go up.
Very good, yes. So then I'm just going to burnish it with my fingers.
One of the best tools around. After cosmetic sponges, fingers are kind of good.
Right on. And I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to pull it off right away. And I don't, in my work, I like
shabby chic, baby.
Shabby, you know, not perfect.
Yeah,
you know,
I know, because you have one here that you took a little bit more time with, and that too has that beautiful shabby chic, uneven, antique-y look.
That I love so much, so.
Which I think is super cool. Now, can you put this foil on absolutely anything?
Yes. Generally, yes, for the most part.
As long as you use some kind of adhesive that's gone to tacky, right?
Right, right.
Okay, so and then of course here is the wreath, which we've already cut. That looks really cool and awesome. And so now we can take the finished wreath and we can head on over to the sewing machine to get those layers going.
Fun.
Let's do it.
Okay. Julie, we're gonna do layering now. I'm gonna show you how I create my layers. This I'm gonna start with is the base layer, which just is a piece of felt. The next layer that I have already done is I like to gesso muslin and then stamp it.
Here you go, I have a stamp for you. Now, here's my question. So you're using felt, which I'm assuming is because of the texture of it?
Yes, it's, you know, it's soft. It mimics kind of like a quilt batting might be.
And I was gonna say, even like this is white because you gessoed it with white, and then this is white, and yet they look different because their textures are different.
The texture is very different, and that's what I love about it.
And now you're using a black ink on top of there, and you're going for a very distressed look again. We don't want perfect stamping. We want that kind of soft, imperfect look.
And I'm using black, but you could use any color.
Browns are always really nice. You could even use gold, would be cool if we wanted to gild everything.
And I like a text design.
Me too. Now, do you worry at all about the fact that you're sort of stamping sort of onto the felt and off of the fabric, or that's totally cool?
No, not at all. I don't worry about it.
So now you've stamped that entire fabric, but you're going back, girl.
I am. So sometimes you have spaces when you're stamping, so I stamp both ways. So I would finish that up by, you know,
just
stamping
both ways, letting it cross, not worrying about it being right or perfect or anything like that.
Right, so this gives you another texture and another element of design. Then I would paint a piece of fabric. That would be my next layer.
I was gonna say, now that's a resist fabric, and you can see that because it has that slight white pattern in the fabric that's slightly lighter. So if you painted it, the white resist would pop out a little bit more.
Yes. So that would be my fabric layer, and I would then put down a book page. And you can see I've got different shades of white here.
Yeah, you know, it's like anything. When you look at something so long, and yet that's many, many different whites.
And the final thing that I would do is take a piece of scrapbook paper get it wet, damp, scrunch it up, let it dry, and then I would paint it with some gold paint.
Why are you getting it wet?
To get the crumpled effect. It helps the paper, because I want kind of a broken down look.
So it helps the paper to relax, basically.
Yes,
That's cool. Now I know you've already stitched together a couple of layers here.
Yes.
And now we're gonna stitch on the rest of them.
Right,
So why are you stitching instead of gluing?
I like to stitch because it's not as messy. And I generally will use a fusible web for that reason also.
I also think sewing adds such a nice texture too.
It does, and it's another decorative element.
Now you're sewing through felt, painted or gessoed fabric, the painted other fabric, and this scrapbook paper. So are you having to use like a heavy duty needle? Or?
No, I just use a regular needle, unless I have really more layers. Then I could consider using a stronger needle.
Do you need to adjust the stitch length? Do you need to do anything
special? You can,
special?
And you would do that if you wanted to have more decoration. Let's say you wanted a longer stitch or a decorative stitch. And see how I kind of jogged that a little bit? See how that is?
Yeah.
I can fix that because then I'll just go around again. So it looks like I did that intentionally.
Right, I can see that. It looks like you have double rows in some of the previous stitching, and now again, this looks like a purposeful design choice. And by the way, that's a cheating thing that I do all the time too, to make my sewing look better.
It's not a secret anymore. We've just told everybody about it.
I know. That's the worst part is I always find like I tell people all my secrets about how I fixed all my creative opportunities.
Right. And collage is very forgiving.
So would you add any decorative stitches, or are you always using a straight stitch?
I generally will use a straight stitch or a zigzag stitch.
Cool. So then you go ahead and you're just cutting your threads off. Now, do you leave your threads hanging or do you tend to cut them?
I generally will cut them.
And
but there's no rule for that.
Because I like to leave threads hanging. I think it makes it look more finished, etc. But I think everybody gets to personalize it. That's the point.
Right. And again, also with thread, you can, thread would makes a big difference as well. You can be subtle, or you could do a neutral like I did, or use black, to stand out more.
And I can see now you're gilding your collage right there with the finishing touch of the wreath. Now, how are you going to adhere it on there?
I would just tack that down with a little bit of glue.
How
I want it,
cool.
I don't want it completely glued because I want to bend up them slightly so it gives it a little bit more dimension.
And if we look over at some of your beautiful finished work, we can see all those layers, all those whites.
Yep.
So much cool collage, Rebekah. This has been great. I'm excited to layer. Thank you.
Thank you.